Have you back. Now, although the naira has fallen sharply against the dollar in recent months, food inflation has not speeded up, as it usually does when the currency weakens. Most say it's because Nigeria has expanded its own food production over the past few years. But according to the Bureau of Statistics, 738 billion naira worth of agricultural products was imported into the country in the first quarter of 2015. Now, for the corresponding period in 2014, agricultural imports increased by 132.1 billion naira. That's about 21.8% from 606 billion naira in the first quarter of 2014. The value of Nigeria's total imports dropped about 19% from 2 trillion naira in the fourth quarter of last year to about 1.6 trillion naira at the end of the first quarter of 2015. So how much food sufficiency has Nigeria achieved? Well, joining me to talk about this is African farmer Mogaji. He's a farmer and partner, Green Collar Jobs Initiative. Good morning, and thank you so much for coming in.
Good morning, Ariel.
So, that's my first question to you this morning. How much has Nigeria achieved in recent years in the sector?
It has improved. The previous administration did invest a lot in agriculture, created a lot of awareness. The production really increased across the board. Most of the private sector really played the part in the availability of foods, because the private sector was geared and they went into it fully, and we should expect more of the private sector this year.
But in terms of seeing improvement in mechanizing agriculture, has it been up to expectations of players like yourself?
No, it's not been up to expectations. We still have about 70% of the food still produced by the rural farmers with hoes and cutlasses that now integrate a bit of mechanization, as against the rural farmers having small equipments that they can use so that they can be dependent on themselves, as against getting tractors from outside.
Well, based on the figures we're seeing now, do you think that there's enough food, especially basic staples, for instance, for Nigeria to claim self-sufficiency?
We don't have Harriet, and it's alarming. Tomatoes went to 34,000 naira, and that's been the worst in the last 15 years.
34,000 for a basket? For
a basket of a 50 kilogram. The worst that has happened was 25,000. But this year it rose to 34,000 because we had a change in climate. April and May, the rains didn't come. And NIMET has actually foreseen that and warned, but there's no structure on ground to avert that. So we just plunged into it, and everybody went. So corn, maize, name it. Everything is going high. And with that 2 months difference in rain, we're still going to have a bit of backlog in 2016. From the field point of view, you have, especially in the southwest, even in the north, Katsina, most of them have not been able to plant. Now the first batch of corn ought to have been harvested, but what we have now is that the first batch of corn is being harvested and just being planted. So instead of having 2-3 cropping this year, we're likely to have just 1 for a lot of rural farmers and 2 for farmers who have the wherewithal to invest in agriculture.
So that also now negates what this report that we got about the fact that we might have so much food. So this year might not be an abundant harvest.
Yes, in the field. I don't know where all these reports come from, but I'm sure you bought tomatoes.
Not over the weekend. Not over this weekend, anyway.
Oh, yeah, in the last 3 weeks, it's been, alarming all over. So if there's a report that there's excess, I don't know where they got it from. You check around, the farmers all over. I operate within the southwestern states, and I have a good network in the north. Everybody is raising alarm. So I don't know where these documents come from when the people producing are having challenges.
Yeah, because you see, this is also what is taken into cognizance when computing the food inflation index, and we're expecting to see a further increase in the headline inflation, and of course we know that food contributes to this. So in the near short term, what can be done to begin to reduce the challenge? Because there's a climate change issue, yes, and irrigation has been in conversations for a very long time, but we're not seeming to get that quickly sorted out.
Yes, I think it has to do also with political will. Now, irrigation is readily available, especially, and I want to say this, government at federal level has invested hugely in irrigation. Now, most of these irrigation infrastructures have not been optimally utilized. You still have maybe 50% of some not operating. So we only need to get these things working. Well, one thing Ogunshun River Basin that I've been operating with over 19 years now is recently they gave out some small water pumps for farmers to be able to irrigate, as against waiting for their big projects. So the farmers can individually put the pumps in the dams and do something small, as against the old project waiting because they need to fix something. So I think a bit of being proactive has happened with the Ogunshun River Basin, but we need to harness what is available to us. You will be amazed at dams untapped across the country. And I've traveled a bit to most of these river basins, and it's alarming. And one thing I would say is that the Buhari administration needs to understand that word leverage, to leverage on what has been installed for them to get the job done. The state governors, I'm not happy with them.
As a farmer, you're not happy with
Yes, them? Because one, farming, most of the states in the country, they are agrarian based. The southwestern, most, not all, Lagos in the exception, most of the governors have gone to sleep. When you have lands, you have infrastructure, they're not using it. And everybody's running to Abuja for bailout, when even federal government needs bailout also. So I want to see a situation where they begin to look inward. What do we have? Plantain is wasting in Edo State. Fortunately, plantain pineapple is coming from Edo State. But the farmers and the marketers are having a lot of issues bringing it. So government intervention needs to come in terms of transportation, get the vehicle marketers to give them these vehicles on a long-term lease. The state governments are really not doing what really needs to be done. The farmers and the marketers are having it tough. Bank of Industry is not really doing what it should do. And so really we need agencies to do what their policies have set them up to do.
But in making these people understand the challenges that the sector is facing, or practitioners like yourself are facing, have you come together to put together your thoughts and present it in a way that doesn't seem as if you're expecting a miracle to happen? Because you also have to remember that these funds have been put in place for to service different sectors, not just the agriculture sector, for instance. And so you have to come with a logical plan, a realistic one, that when you get these funds, you can execute.
Well, the way it works around here is a bit different. Now, the players that will be brought together to put together these documents will not be the real players. So at the end of the day, there's no, you will only talk, sending a paper is trashed. But when it comes to like having a stakeholders meeting, open stakeholders meeting, Obasanjo used to do that. Open stakeholders, come, and you have the opportunity to speak, as against being invited. If you are not invited, there's nothing you can do. So we need to think out of the box and begin to go back to what I like General Obasanjo, not President Obasanjo, what he used to do. Open door policy, and let everybody talk, and let people really want to get it done the right way. So we need that open policy to get things done now.
What about in the fish farming business? Everybody keeps talking about the crops and other foodstuffs that we have, and we have less attention on fish farming. And that's one thing I know that the former Minister of Agriculture was very passionate about. encouraging more fish farming and having less of fish being imported, particularly stockfish. He detested stockfish, and all those frozen fish you get, at the cold room that most times are going bad.
Well, really, the opportunities are available. One thing that I was taken aback with the Niger Delta issues was the amnesty program trained a lot of youths outside the countries to get jobs. When they came back, there were no jobs. Instead of training them on entrepreneurship, they have the seas, they have the shrimps. We can be sustainable in shrimp production, in all this fish production.
But most of these waters are already polluted. So coming back and wanting to do shrimp production or fish or crabs or whichever way it is.
Harriet, not all the waters is being polluted. Some areas close. The waters, they still have plantain. Bulk of plantain comes from Akwa Ibom and all these oil producing states. And they come in trailers, and the Southwest depends on them. So if it's true that all the waters have been polluted, where do the trailers that feed Lagos State, where does it come from? It comes from the oil producing states and those states. So usually the information we get and the realities in the field, they're different. The rural people in the oil producing states also are still fishermen. It's just that they need to be empowered with the right equipment on a smaller scale to do this job, and also processing. I would expect Bank of Industry to set up incubation centers in each local government to take advantage of what is produced there. Fish, you have the catfish, the stockfish. It's a common product now. People can do it in tanks. Make these funds readily available, as against it's available and saying they're not accessing it. Give it to them.
Why will I give you funds? Sorry to jump in there. Why will I give you funds when you've not shown me that you're capable enough to handle it?
Good.
You might collect these funds from me and misuse them, and at the end of the day you come back again and ask for another one, and where do you expect me to get it from when I've given you an initial loan or bailout, as the case may be, and you've not done anything worthwhile?
Really, I'm not an advocate of giving cash to anybody that needs money. Okay, it will be diverted, but buy the input, get suppliers to give you these things, engage them in trainings, and have a robust M&E, that's monitoring and evaluation department, put in place to engage them. So give them what they require to do the job. And let them also have a counterpart funding to say, okay, we'll give you 70, you bring 30, and 30 will be your working capital. But bulk of what you need to start, we're providing. They're doing this for mega people who want to go into agriculture on a commercial scale. But the real players, they're not getting these things. If you breed fingerlings and say, we'll give you fingerlings, we'll give you fish feed, under Governor Fayemi, Ekiti State did some pilots that really worked out. But it was not replicated across board. But this thing works. If you monitor and you give them what they need, the youths and everybody looking at making additional money will get the job done.
But getting the job done is one thing. Getting quality in quantity is also another thing. How achievable is that?
It's very achievable. The agencies responsible just need to do what they are paid for. Okay, so see, this thing is working. You go to Jigawa, Adia Jamari, you will see loads of trailers of fish, smoked fish coming. 15 years ago, I used to engage in that trade. You see, so we can't say that people don't want to do the job. They want it. They only need to be empowered to do the job. And a structure needs to be put in place to monitor and evaluate and plan and forecast.
Well, African Farmer, let's take a quick break. We'll come back and continue this conversation. The conversation with African Farmer continues after this break. Please join us again.